Welcome to the Own Your Best Life podcast. I'm May Emson, your host, leadership and mindset coach. Here, we talk all things spiritual, mindset, business, leadership, and wellness for the modern seeker who wants to align their life with purpose and inspiration. We'll cover career changes, stress management, meditation, energy, intuition, and more. Each episode holds spiritual and practical tools to help you live a life of your wildest dreams without getting burnt out along the way. Ready to live a life on your own terms? This is the Own Your Best Life podcast. Welcome, friends, to episode number 103 of the Own Your Best Life podcast. So when we begin to review the times in our day where we feel the most challenged, bedtimes and evenings can be one of them. We often have this ideal that we feel that we're not living up to in our lives, whether it's our own use of the evenings and how we transition into sleep, or how our kids transition from the evening into sleep. And whether you are in a period of transition or you want to make some necessary adjustments, today's podcast on bedtime routines for adults and kids will help you create a routine that works for you and your loved ones. All right, so if you've listened to my podcast on the sleep meditation for kids, you'll know that we've had our own share of sleep struggles. And sometimes we have kids who have no trouble falling asleep and winding down. And sometimes we have the opposite. And maybe the sleep struggle isn't with the kids. Maybe it is with you. Maybe your own nights just seem to get away from you and you wake up lacking the energy to do what you need to do the next day, or just feel off. As a result of working through my own sleep struggles where I felt like I was just a night owl who didn't need that much sleep, or my kids' sleep struggles, and the evening routines of so many of my clients, I know this is a topic that is hugely important to the quality of our lives and the quality of our days and the quality of our nights. And no matter where you are right now, you are in the right place, because I will give you a few key mindset shifts and some practical strategies you need to make if you are desiring to improve your evening routine. So the first shift to make is deciding that you want it to be different. So many of us get into a place of status quo and not wanting to make another problem show up in our lives, that we accept what is already happening and we decide not to do anything about it. And there's a difference between acceptance and complacency. So you can accept that you've struggled with this and still not be complacent about what you want to do with it. And the challenge we have is thinking that we don't have the time or the energy to deal with this problem right now, when in reality, you're already using the time and energy to deal with the problem. You're doing it every single night. Think about it. Every time you do the back and forth of trying to fall asleep and not falling asleep, every time you fall asleep with the kids as you're putting them to bed, and you wake up in their beds in the middle of the night, and then you go try to do some work or go back to sleep in your own bed, whatever it is, every time you continue working because you've given up on falling asleep at your own desired time, so you just get up and start working again. All of these patterns use time and energy, hours and hours and hours of time and energy. And I often hear people say that they don't have time for coaching, or that they're worried about how much time they have to work on coaching topics. And it blows my mind, because they don't understand this one thing, which I'm going to explain to you. And I explain this to them, right? This idea that you're already spending the time, you're living your life, you're not getting the result you want, though. That's the difference. You're already spending the time, you're just not getting the result you want. We just spend our coaching time making a plan, figuring out how that's going to work for you. And then you spend your time executing and living your life. Think about it this way. What if you had the same 24 hours that someone else had? Very hypothetically. And you had a different quality of life in the same 24 hours. You did what you felt was important. You were less anxious and worried. You feel more confident and well rested. You make progress. You feel more energized. This is the difference between being worried that you're not going to have the time to do the thing that would improve your quality of life and actually taking an hour out of your week to think about what you want and how to go about it. And then have your experience be different for the rest of your life. Many, many hours saved from 1 hour or 2 hours in the front end. So this is what you can accept. You can accept that kids have a hard time winding down from the day. You can accept that you might even feel like you have a hard time winding down from the day. But don't be afraid to think that it's possible to have something different than your current experience as well. You can have an evening routine that works for you and your life. You can bypass, though, this sense of complacency and move into a feeling of possibility that isn't based on just wishful thinking, but based upon strategies that actually work. I often think of the phrase, our days begin with our nights, when I'm thinking about doing that one last thing in the evening and then pushing back the sleep schedule. Or I think about how the way we're setting up our evenings will determine how our kids feel the next morning. So all this to say is that transitions matter. The evening routine is one of our most precious times to relax, to catch up with loved ones, or just with ourselves, to set the tone for how we want our next day to go. We usually have this laundry list of all these things we want to do if only we had some free time. And I'm telling you, here is some time that you might have for yourself that you don't even realize. And studies have shown that sleep loss impacts our mental and physical well-being. When you sleep less than 6 hours a night, a few nights in a row, and many of us do that sometimes, it leads to anger, irritability, frustration, even loneliness. It can also lead to weight gain, gastrointestinal issues, subdued immune responses, reduced cognitive abilities. So I'm putting this out there for you because I want you to really consider what that one extra thing you're thinking of doing at night sometimes is going to result in for the rest of your life as well, which is a pattern of having all these things be present in your life. And as much as we prioritize our ability to get things done during the day, we must also prioritize our ability to prepare to get things done. And that preparation is our sleep. And studies have also shown that bedtime routines help adults and kids have better well-being, behavioral, and developmental outcomes, as well as physical outcomes. So the most important thing, if you're thinking about developing your own bedtime routine, is consistency and your objectives. Consistency, let's talk about this one. Consistency creates routines. It reduces all of your barriers, the barriers of pushback, either from yourself or your kids. It utilizes less energy to have consistency because you know what happens every night. Some of us might find consistency boring, but I would consider that the consistency, when applied to activities that help you and your child have a better emotional and physical outcomes, is the type of boring that you desire. You don't desire that surprise of negative emotional, physical, and developmental outcomes, do you? And sometimes boring is exactly what we want, especially the good type of boring. And the second part is your objectives. Your objectives also matter during a bedtime routine, and I'm going to have a shift for you that you may not have ever thought of. You might have a goal of going to bed and sleeping, actually falling asleep by a certain time, or having your kids go to sleep at a certain time. But I would reconsider that the objective of a bedtime routine is not to have your kids or yourself asleep at a certain time. Instead, I would focus on creating the optimal conditions that allow for sleep at the desired time. And we shift our attention away from that stress inducing thought, which is they should be sleeping by now, or I should be asleep by now, which, as you may be aware, inhibits your sleep. We all know this. If you've ever had a night where you couldn't fall asleep easily, and you had the thought, oh my goodness, I'm still not in bed. And then you look at the clock and then you're like, oh, what time is it now? And you keep seeing the numbers keep ticking on by, and it gets you into more of a panic. You'll realize that it doesn't help you to actually think, I should be asleep right now. Right? That's resistance. And anytime we resist what is actually happening in our lives, we create stress. When you create stress, it's harder to fall asleep. So we move our attention towards things. So I want you to think about just the absence of all of that in your life, and now the presence of all these things that I'm about to share with you. We move our attentions towards things that relax us, like baths, maybe warm baths, meditation, gentle yoga, stretching, massage, even some darkness. So change your objective to creating the conditions that would allow for someone to fall asleep, and you'll be much more relaxed. You probably feel soothed just hearing me say all of those words. Feels like you're heading to a spa and having a beautiful time, which is what I love to think about as bedtime. And I think it can be that nice. And so that thought of, wow, that sounds so nice. That sounds so relaxing. And if you're more relaxed, it's easier to fall asleep. So let's talk about how you actually create a routine. If you want to create one for yourself, I would think about 3 things. Consistency and 2 kinds of conditions, mental and physiological conditions. I have a PDF you can download if you go to www.mayemsin.com/103. so that you can actually write it down and create a bedtime routine for yourself or your kids. And I'll share it with you now. And the first one is this. Let's think about consistency. What time does your routine begin and end? We need a start time, we need an end time, we need it to be specific so that we start to remember and remind ourselves, now is the time which we start doing these things. Now is the time in which we generally end these things. What creates stress in the lives of parents, or even if you have no kids, is feeling like there's an undetermined end time. This feeling of it just goes on forever, or I don't know when we start or stop. And what creates a sense of calm is when you know what's going to happen and when. So consider for yourself that even if you have an abnormal schedule now, how could you create consistency in your life in ways that feel that you have some control over? And maybe your consistency is going to look different for someone else, which is why I always advocate for creating your own specific routines that work for you. But the idea of just having consistency will train our bodies to fall asleep and get relaxed and get ready for bed at a certain time. And then the second part is to think about conditions. The conditions that I was talking about, the first one is mental. So what activities are going to mentally relax myself or my kids? For example, you can think of calm stories or relaxing visualizations or certain peaceful meditations. The second condition that would help is to think about the physiological. So we have the mind and then we have the body. So what conditions need to be present for my body to relax? For example, having a darkened room, no screens at least an hour before bedtime, not just for your kids, but for yourself. And many of us like to wind down by scrolling on our phones. And we often find, surprise, surprise, that we have a hard time falling asleep after we're looking at our phones for a multitude of reasons beyond whatever you're reading or what you're looking at and how distracting that is, but also just the light as it enters into our retinas. It triggers us to stay awake and to be awake. So it's the antithesis to that dark room situation. We're trying to actually come down to what is more natural and what is in nature, which obviously wouldn't even have lights on at that point. So start to think about how you can dim lights or reduce the amount of lighting as you start to head to sleep. And then to also think about maybe not eating 2 or 3 hours before sleep. That includes yourself, your kids, but really starting to let the body go into a mode of not just fasting, I would say, but allowing that digestion to kind of work itself out and through. And when we go to bed and we've just eaten or you've had something to drink, whether it's yourself or your kids, hopefully your kids are not imbibing alcohol, but you might be. And that actually does affect your quality of sleep. Same thing with caffeine. So if you're drinking copious amounts of caffeine and you're noticing you have trouble falling asleep, that's one thing to look at. If you are also imbibing alcohol and you're feeling a little sluggish the next day, there is a lot of reasons why that might be affecting your quality of sleep as well. Some other physiological things you can do is to stretch or do yoga, right? It releases the tension in your body. You can do deep breathing, which actually reduces the level of cortisol that's flowing through your body as well. So there's so many things that you can do in terms of setting up the right conditions for sleep. And those are just some examples. I'm sure you might have some that have worked for you in the past. So just bring them into your own routine and do it the way that works for you. So I get this question all the time, so I'm going to answer it, which is, what do you do? What are you doing right now with your kids? So the routine that's working for us right now, and our kids are about to be 7 and 9, so 7 and 9. So just take that with a grain of salt. If your kids are much younger, you're going to have a different routine that looks a little different, but you can alter it for age-appropriate activities. Or your kids are older, same thing. I think that they could do a lot of these things and it would still be helpful as well. So just age up and down appropriately. So what we do is this. The whole first part is the PJs. We pick out clothes for the next day, brush teeth, floss, tidy their rooms. The kids have a list that they work through each night that is the same thing and they know what to do. And if they need help doing it, we'll help them do it. But for the most part, we cue them that, this is the time, let's start your list. And they are often doing the activities. We do have to sometimes remind them to keep going because like kids, they will get distracted and do other things. But afterwards, we go into one of the rooms. We'll do yoga first. And so we darken the room. Yoga, it doesn't take that long. We don't even call it yoga. We just start doing it with them. One of them will usually be laying down or sitting up, and it'll be about 5 minutes in total. So we'll lead them through some gentle stretches, some breathing exercises where they take deep breaths in and out that they can do whether they are seated or whether they're laying down. And this helps them relax their bodies. It helps them bring awareness to any places where they might feel tension or stress. And it also teaches them that they can do simple things like taking a deep breath or folding forward to relax the body. Then we just transition into a meditation, which is about 5 to 10 minutes max. And this kind of meditation is more of a focused awareness type of meditation, which we do visualization specifically. So we'll incorporate calming imagery, like things like you're nestled in a cloud, or you're on a leaf, or you're surfing. If you've listened to my podcast on the surfing episode, you're surfing effortlessly. We'll also have some calming cues. I think of this as subliminal messaging in a good way. So we'll say things like, you feel so safe. You feel so relaxed, you feel so loved, you feel so connected. And we'll focus their attention on things by saying, for example, you notice the stars up above you. and how beautiful they are, right? We try to really highlight maybe some of the positives in their lives. Or you see the clouds moving just like your thoughts. They come and go and come and go. Or you see waves coming and going just like your thoughts. And all of this helps their brains move into the theta state, which is, the different types of brain waves that occur as you are falling asleep versus asleep. And the theta state is the same state you move into as you drift off to sleep. So focused awareness meditation has been shown to increase the theta waves. And therefore, this is why it actually helps. So I'll even say, and then you drift off to sleep at the end to cue that this is the time they transition into sleep. So this has worked wonders for our kids. It has reduced the time between them being awake and them being asleep exponentially, especially for my daughter that has more anxious thoughts. It has reduced her anxiety, and I've been asked so many times about what I've done to help with anxiety and to help her fall asleep, because I think this is such a big topic for many of us that I decided to do a podcast episode and share this, because I think everyone wants that kind of inner peace, especially for our kids. When we see them struggle, it's challenging and we want to help as much as we can. So this is something you can actually do. And if you're an adult who is feeling like this, which many adults also have anxiousness and anxiety and stress as they're falling asleep and in their daily lives, I would highly recommend this as well. And even my husband, who is not a consistent meditator, is now sold on the benefits. And as he leads them through this, which it's not just me, I showed him how to do it and he ran with it and started doing it himself now as well. As he leads them through this, his experience also is the same that they're having. So he gets the benefits of all of this. So consider that even if you are just doing this for your kids, you're also going to receive the benefits of the relaxation and a ritual that's conducive for you to go to bed as well. And there's much more to the practices if we go into earlier stages of nights, and all of this is what I teach my clients in my coaching programs. So if you think about this and you like it, you're going to want to coach. We go into more detail. We go into depth around the ways to visualize and how to visualize and what to visualize about. Also, what to do to help you transition and end your days in a way that prepares you for your next day, feeling energized and less stressed about what's coming. Even the Sunday scaries, we work through that. So even if you don't know how to do this, I will teach you how, and that's what I teach my clients. This is just the tip of the iceberg. And if you love these kind of practical strategies and the depth and the understanding, even of the science behind it, and the simple shifts that you can make to your life to optimize your days and your nights, you're going to love coaching. And most of all, I hope this podcast helps you think about what you can do to either start a routine or improve upon a routine that works for you and your family. And if you want to learn more about what it's like to work with me, you can go to www.mayemson.com/contact. Hope you have an amazing day, my friends. I will see you next time. Thanks so much for joining us this week on Own Your Best Life. Make sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts so that you'll never miss a show. And while you're at it, can you please rate and review on iTunes? I would so appreciate it. Share it with a friend, take a screenshot of it, and tag @MayEmson. This helps continue to get the word out. For more show notes and resources, check out www.mayemson.com. You'll have all the links to everything you heard here today. Thanks so much for listening. It's time to own your best life.